So, for our group study abroad trip, we chose to go to Sydney, Australia. It makes logical sense for all of us to convene on campus, since that will be obviously a place we all are at. So, meet at campus and get to introduce ourselves. That way, we can all meet at a centralized location. Don't have to worry about picking others up. It's easy for everyone to get to. Everyone's familiar with the area, so there's no confusion on the meeting spot or meeting time. So you can go ahead and get a head count before leaving campus. That way, if something does happen, it can be addressed sooner rather than later, and there's no problems with getting that initial part of the trip started. So from campus, we will then take the 2 hour journey to Charlotte Douglas International. So we will have a direct flight from Charlotte Douglas to Sydney. Here we'll just get to the airport, go through TSA as normal, and then board our flight. Once we have boarded our flight, we have a very long 24-hour trip in the air from North Carolina to Sydney, Australia. So we will land here at the Sydney Kingsford Smith Airport. It is located just outside of Sydney, and it will take probably about 15-20 minutes to get from the airport to our hotel. So once we land, go through customs, do all the things that we need to do, we'll then take that short trip to the hotel. The hotel is located in downtown Sydney. This location was picked because it is close to all the attractions and buildings that we are going to visit while we're here. Matter of fact, it's walking distance from most of them. So, after a long 24-hour day of flying, we'll come to the hotel and we will call that a night. So, day one will be spent traveling, and then we'll go to bed in the hotel. Once we wake up on day two, we'll start our trip by visiting the University of Sydney. This is a good place to start because you immediately get to dive in with something that's familiar. Although it's not going to be the same as American universities, getting to see the similarities and differences will be great, and getting to see kind of the difference in way of life and getting to visit not only another country but another campus, which is always a great thing to do. Getting to dive in and see their academics, their buildings, and really just the beauty of the overall campus. So moving from the University of Sydney, we planned on spending most of the morning and a little bit into the afternoon there, and we will then transform or move to our next location, which is going to be the Australian Post. This is a really cool building because it is the post office of Australia, but it's also a very historical building. It is the original post office, and there's no changing that anytime soon. It is listed as a landmark, however, it does still operate, so you get a piece of history as well as a piece of, modern advancement all in one building. So spend the afternoon there getting to see the architecture and how that building has changed over time, and also get to look into their postal process, which could differ from America's. The post office will be it for day two. So head back to the hotel. Like I said, very convenient location, not too far from anything. You're looking about a 5 to 10 minute drive to all of these places. So super, super handy to get to, and very convenient. If something were to happen and someone gets separated, you're not too far away from home base. So that will be the end of our first day in Australia, second day of the trip. Starting off the next day, we will be spending it at the Gallery Shop. It is an art gallery located on the outskirts of Sydney, a little bit out of downtown, probably about a 15 to 20 minute drive from the hotel, but still very, very close. This has obviously a lot of artwork. It also has some literature, statues, different things like that. So a good look into the past, present, and probably the future of Australia's art and literature collection. So very cool to see and get a piece of their history, and as well as a piece of the present. Um, I know for myself, it's a little bit different of a place, so getting to see how they express themselves through artwork and literature would be very, very good to see, and very knowledgeable. Moving from there, we are going to spend the afternoon in the Australian Museum. It is right near downtown, a little bit closer to the hotel than the art gallery, and they have a great collection of past relics and museum pieces from not only Australia but from the world, getting to dive into the literal past of Australia and see how everything has changed, kind of how they've developed, and getting just to look into their history as well as world history. So getting to compare and contrast some things about the United States, Australia, as well as the world, and how different artifacts and different things have aged and progressed throughout time. That'll be it for day 3 of our trip, our second full day in Australia. We'll go back to the hotel, call it a night, and then the next day, it's going to be a little bit of a travel day. So we'll go from the hotel to Central Station. That's about a 20-minute drive. And Central Station's not only a great piece of architecture, but it is a functional train station, which is why we are there. We're going to get to Central Station. We're going to take a train from Sydney out to the Blue Mountains. So the Blue Mountains are this great mountain range in Australia. As you can see, they span a good bit of that portion of the country. So this is about a 2.5 to 3 hour train ride, and it takes a pretty big loop from Sydney to the Blue Mountains to the Three Sisters Walk back to the city. So we'll start the trip by going through the mountain range and seeing that part of the country of Australia, and that will start the circle back at the Three Sisters Walk, which is a rock formation on the Blue Mountain Range. This is it's an overlook on the river, as well as just an overlook of the landscape. So getting to go to a more touristy spot and see the natural beauty of Australia and get out of the city and experience a little bit more of the country would be good. So like I said, about a 2.5 to 3 hour train ride. So that'll put us there mid-morning, spend most of the mid-morning to afternoon here, and then start heading back to the city, which will be another 2.5 hours. So we'll go from there to Central Station and then back to the hotel, and that will be it for the portion in Australia. Unfortunately, that will wrap up the trip. So from there, we'll go to the airport, check in, go through security, do all that stuff, and then have our 24-hour wonderful flight back to Charlotte, North Carolina. There we'll go through customs and do all we need to do to come back to the country legally. Once everyone has been through security and customs and everything like that, we will then start our trek back up the mountain. Nice little 2-hour drive back to campus. and everyone gets to reminisce on their amazing trip, friendships they've made, memories they've made, and overall just an unforgettable experience in Australia.